But you fought for our country, which, of course, turns you into an American hero automatically. I'm going to send you a great Father's Day gift, which is Countdown to Mecca. And I hope that you will enjoy reading it, because I can guarantee you in my book, your vision for annihilation of the enemy is a little more realistically expressed than you may have heard on the airwaves. Stay on the line. That book will go out to you tomorrow and probably arrive in time for Father's Day. 855-400-7282. Let's move across America to New York City. George on WABC. Go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation.
Yes, I have a question and a comment on the millennials. My question is this. Since America has entered into the dark ages, do you see any chance of her having a renaissance?
Of our nation having a renaissance? Several of the smartest people I know have a very dark vision for this nation. And they continue to argue with me when they think I'm a Pollyanna when I see salvation coming. They don't agree with me. They're smarter than me. They're richer than me. They're self-made men. And they believe that America is finished because of Obama and liberalism. They believe that liberalism has destroyed the country permanently. That there's no coming back from it. That the insanity of liberalism, the insanity of gay marriage, the insanity of open borders, the insanity of decimating our language, the insanity of stepping on our culture has so pervaded the land and the mindset that there's almost no stopping it. That's what they think.
We're on the edge.
Well, so you're asking me what I think? I'm never a Pollyanna. I'm a rather pessimistic individual who can be optimistic at times. And we talked about this in other ways yesterday. I say to them, and I said this in an email yesterday to someone who was very depressed over it, a young man with everything to live for, who built a fortune on his own, who sees nothing but a horrendous future for America because of what's been done to it. He says there's no coming back from it. And I said all diseases are self-limiting. As a trained epidemiologist, I can tell you that that's a fact of reality. All epidemics are self-limiting. Did you know that?
Yes.
Now, what do I mean by that? I mean all epidemics eventually burn themselves out. When they consume all of the potential victims, except those with resistance to the illness, eventually the epidemic stops. And I believe that the epidemic of liberalism will eventually consume itself and die out.
Well, I hope so on that point. As far as the millennials go, they would be a great candidate for Mao Zedong's cultural revolution.
Absolutely. They are the new Red Brigades. These moronic children who have no conscience, they are the new Red Brigades with iPhones in their brains. All right, my friend, Father's Day is around the corner. If you name the title, you get it. What's my novel called?
Countdown to Mecca. And I'm
you came loaded for bear. Well, you're getting that novel going out to you right away. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUYCOIN. Now, here's something that you can sink your teeth into. The horse champion, American Pharoah, is going to stud for $175,000 per. $175,000 per foal. Champion American Pharoah to stud for $175,000 per. Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all. Meanwhile, Rubio, a real donkey, is fundraising with Oracle's Larry Ellison in Silicon Valley. Now, why would Larry Ellison, a certifiably brilliant businessman, why would he fundraise with this ice cream man Rubio? There's nobody. There's a non-entity. Because Rubio's in favor of new B-1B visas, so Larry Ellison could have a bigger yacht, that's all. Instead of having a 415-foot yacht, he could have a 715-foot yacht with cheaper labor. Then he can train workers like Disney did. Take American IT workers, like in the concentration camps, train them to replace themselves with workers from India who are working at half the salary and then throw them out so that Michael Iger can make more money. So the pigs who run Disney can make more money. They fire American IT workers. It's like all hands, wherever you turn, there's nothing. There's no center anymore. There's no meaning. There's no center. There's no... I know many of you are distraught over this. You say, well, who do you look to? Why is this happening? Why? How are these guys who are worth billions and billions of dollars? Why are they so greedy? Why are they so greedy to the detriment of the United States that they would bring in workers from India who work for half the price of American workers? And to add insult to injury, they make the American workers train the Indians at their own jobs, and then they throw them out. And that tells you who Rubio is. An ice cream man, like I told you all along, a hand-picked stooge. A basic idiot. Why, you think Rubio is presidential material? Rubio was never Senate material, although in America today, that has no meaning. Everyone's a senator. If Barbara Boxer could be a senator for 400 years, anybody could be a senator. If Dianne Feinstein can get away with what she gets away with, if Dianne Feinstein can get away with being the chairwoman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who knows nothing about intelligence except how to capitalize on it for personal gain in the minds of anybody who sees what's going on, why then Rubio would be a perfect candidate for the office of the president, wouldn't he? He's one of many in a long line, isn't he? Only a little stupider than most. All right, I think I have exhausted these things. Coming up is Colleen Rowley, former FBI agent, retired FBI special agent, was selected as Person of the Year way back in 2002 after revealing how pre-9/11 intelligence was ignored by superiors at the FBI. And she's talking about ISIS being our Frankenstein. She said it's like the mad, power-hungry doctor who created Frankenstein, only to have his monster turn against him. And it's hard to feel sorry when the insane doctor gets his due. She says ISIS was created by the various neocon warmongers and military-industrial complex, most of them inept Peter principals who just don't care about America or what they're doing. So when Ms. Rowley appears on the show in a few minutes, I'm going to ask her who these neocons are. I want to know if it's the same group. If it's the same group who advised Bush to go into Iraq and created the false flag of WMDs, which were taken up lock, stock, and barrel by the so-called conservatives in the radio business, who were still selling WMDs as near as 3 weeks ago as justification for going into Iraq. Let's see what she has to say. Who are these neocons who've created ISIS? I'd love to hear what she's going to say. Be here or be nowhere.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
All right, you're listening to the Savage Nation. It's just one man's opinion. I sit here and observe and try to draw some conclusions. A few weeks ago, after the throwbacks in ISIS captured Ramadi, I went on the air and I said, wait a minute, there's a victory parade a half-mile long of their pickup trucks. Our Air Force is allegedly in the sky. We didn't fire a rocket. I said, wait a minute, so they must be our army, our factotum army there. And now today, we read more and more about this. And we read that the Syrian rebels that John McCain has been secretly arming and training through the CIA in Syria to overthrow Assad have just seized the largest army base in Daraa. So joining us right now is someone who knows a little bit more about it, if not a lot more about it than I do. She is a retired FBI special agent, and she revealed how pre-9/11 intelligence was ignored by superiors at the FBI when she worked there. Colleen Rowley, welcome to the Savage Nation. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Sorry, my dog just went crazy when you joined the show. I'd like to strangle him, but he doesn't have any self-control, Colleen. Colleen, you say that ISIS is like the mad, power-hungry doctor who created Frankenstein. Who are the neocons who did this?
Well, I think some of our foreign policy think tanks and people who think they can play, global chess, 3D global chess, I think too much that they are capable of all of these very convoluted strategies, which often include, if you even go all the way back to Charlie Wilson's war, but it has really been a common theme all along, they think they can arm one faction to fight against another as a proxy force. And, maybe it works for a short while, but it almost always backfires, just like in the Frankenstein story.
But, Colleen, why do they want to take down Assad so badly? Is he worse than ISIS?
Well, we've demonized quite a number of these foreign leaders, and some. No one likes them. I mean, it's not a question of liking these foreign leaders, but oftentimes that's for strategic reasons, and I think Assad falls into that category. He's certainly, if you compare him to Saddam and Gaddafi and other other political leaders in the Mideast, I don't think he's any better or any worse. But I think they use that, and all along I was a little suspicious that there were the so-called good, moderate rebels. That whole notion that there are good forces and that we should, support and arm these freedom-fighting, democracy-bringing moderates. To me, I'm more in the non-intervention because I've seen this over and over and over now. And Libya, of course, was the last example in saying that the rebels in Benghazi were somehow the good guys and we had to help them. And I think we should really just learn the lesson that we really ought to not think that hard and just stay out of it, in my opinion.
Well, I have the same opinion as you do, but after Assad, what? Who's going to take over? Who will take over? But ISIS is going to take over all of Syria? How is that going to work out to America's interests? Is Israel involved in this strategy?
You're absolutely right about worrying about what would happen next. That old Orwell, not 1984, but Orwell wrote another book called Animal Farm, and it's about how power corrupts, and this idea that you put somebody in power and they're going to, it'll be a cakewalk and bring democracy, etc. I think you very much nailed it. I think if ISIS, of course. We're told, of course, as American citizens, that they are the beheaders, they're the most evil, etc. How in the heck can anyone think that this would be a good step? As in fact, the Defense Intelligence report from 2012 actually seems to be saying that this would be good for the United States if ISIS was to get a caliphate and to get more power.
Hold on. What report is saying that? The DIA report is saying that ISIS creating a caliphate would be in our interest?
Yeah, it actually says that it would put up, it would strategically be a buffer to the greater powers then of the Shiite that were Iran, Iraq, and even Syria created a kind of a clear line of power of Shiites. So their idea was that they would put this buffer in there. And that's what the DIA report was saying. And I should add, there's a lot of other corresponding corroborating evidence besides that DIA report. If you look out there, there's...
Wait, is this all emanating from the sorority around Obama, the college girls who have no military experience? Or as you allege, is it still the old George Bush team of neocons? Who is actually behind this?
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking it might be kind of an unholy alliance in some ways. Samantha Power has been behind a lot of it from the start. And then she has Susan Rice and Hillary Clinton, etc. They were all part of this, even stemming all the way back to Madeleine Albright, this idea of right to protect and humanitarian war and protecting. But that's kind of the nicer, I guess, more feminine face of it. And then the other side of it, there are people who really think that they can play chess on the 3D global chessboard and win. And those
yes, that's because they've nullified the Republican Party, who consists of a bunch of ballless idiots, and they think they can do the same to these Middle Easterners. I think they're quite mistaken. But I keep pushing for this neocon issue because you say in your statement the various neocon warmongers and military-industrial complex, most of them inept Peter principles, just don't care. Who are these neocons?
Well, there weren't that many. The main ones that you could have named that were before the Iraq War were Wolfowitz and Douglas Feith and Libby and the founders of the Project for the New American Century.
Okay, fine. Now, wait, let's focus again. Wolfowitz, is he still alive?
Yes, he is. And he's still
okay. And who was the other one you just mentioned? I thought that these people had gone to their reward. Who was the other character?
Douglas Feith. He was involved in the Office of Special Program, I think is what it was called, but it was all that correlating, all that.
But aren't these the same whiz kids who advised Bush to go into Iraq?
Yes, in fact, they were top officials, and also Scooter Libby was one. They have not gone away and they have not died, and nor have they been incarcerated, which they should have been. They now are in think tanks, including the most powerful foreign policy